Hello there, and a happy Saturday morning. And now here's some news for you that might get you sort of riled up about Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer has set up his own asylum seeker Rwanda-style scheme without telling anyone and without allowing parliamentary scrutiny of his plans. Had this occurred under a Tory administration, it would be headline news, and the human rights lobbies would be all over it like a rash, and the do-gooder lawyers and courts would be sharpening their quills. Basically, Keir Starmer is going to send some asylum seekers to St Helena, an island in the middle of the Atlantic that was once deemed so remote as to be a suitable home for the exiled Napoleon. But this is being done to please the United States, not for UK national interests. Because it all hinges around those Chagos Islands that Keir Take the Gear Starmer and his decolonising Foreign Secretary David Lammy gave away to Mauritius because they claim Joe Biden asked them to. And now we find out there are asylum seekers on the Chagos Islands who arrive there in, get this, small boats from Sri Lanka over 1,000 miles away to the northeast. You only have to look at the map to see how remote the Chagos Islands are. So, as Starmer and Lammy finalise the process of giving away an overseas territory without asking the people who live there or lived there, the decision has been taken to move all those asylum seekers on Chagos and send them to the island of St Helena in the Atlantic Ocean, 6 time zones to the west, 5,300 miles apart. Further than the 4,000 miles from UK to Rwanda. And nary a squeak about it from the UK government. Without, once again, asking the 4,500 people of St Helena whether they want to share their one hospital with all these new arrivals. Although the government of St Helena has gratefully, but quietly, accepted over £6 million as part of the deal. And here was Keir the Neela Starmer calling such scenes immoral and completely wrong. You know, the Rwanda scheme was completely and utterly immoral, he said. As far as I'm concerned, if we deem Mauritius a safe country, which we must if we're handing them the Chagos Islands on a plate, then part of the handover should be all who live there, including the asylum seekers. Or send them to join Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the US. After all, Starmer is claiming the US wanted this deal. I mean, they could easily palm them off across the wide open Mexico-US border, couldn't they? But these landings of asylum seekers from Sri Lanka into the Chagos Islands started in about 2021. And it doesn't look like the Tory government did much about it back then, despite the new arrivals supposedly being a threat to the jointly run US-UK Diego Garcia airbase there. Now, according to press reports, the residents of St Helena are left reeling from this decision. Further, it's emerged that these talks to hand over the Chagos Islands to Mauritius started under the Tories in 2022, with the other part of the establishment uniparty system, the Labour Party, just completing the job. So I would guess the refugees to St Helena part of the process was also cooked up by the Tories. Now, interestingly, as I understand it, St Helena is covered by the European Convention on Human Rights. So one wonders if our human rights lawyers will be flying out there in droves to see if they can get all the refugees sent straight to the UK. Anyway, here's what St Helena councillor Andrew Turner told The Telegraph. We are a very small island. There are less than 4,500 people who are resident on St Helena, so any influx to the island would have an impact. This is the kind of place where you know pretty much anyone you pass on the street on a first-name basis. The cultural shock alone would have a big impact. It seems that the Starmer-Lammy aim is to ignore the people and cause as much cultural shock as they can, wherever they can, whatever the cost. So what do you think about this, Richard?
Sorry, my microphone was off. Yes, my turn to have a little technical mishap there. So what do I think about it? I mean, this is just gross hypocrisy, isn't it? Let's face it. Starmer is an opportunistic hypocrite who clearly has no moral issue with these deportation asylum centres, whatever they're called. He just doesn't want you to know about them, and has done this via the back door. You know, there's nothing. There's been nothing out in the open about this. Did any of us see this coming? No. Was this ever discussed in Parliament? No. So, I mean, how many members of the cabinet knew about this? This is quite a remarkable move. I mean, what if this had been out in the open, that this was his intention in the last Labour Party conference? I think there would have been a few more disturbances there. Yeah, I wonder how the Labour voting base would have reacted had they known this was coming down the pipeline. Yeah, what do you reckon?
Well, I reckon that a lot of people knew anything about those. I mean, I knew vaguely about these sort of islands and things, having wandered about the ocean on a ship before, but most people wouldn't know where to start looking for them. So they probably wouldn't have thought much other than the concept that I'm going to throw Rwanda away, but I'm going to do a Chagos to St. Helena setup would have gone down as a hypocritical policy. And what gets me is they haven't said a word about it. It actually, I read about it in the Telegraph last night. I looked around, some other newspapers have picked it up, but they're not playing much on it. And the Telegraph does state quite clearly that they couldn't find any Foreign Office press release about it. I had a look. I couldn't find anything from the Foreign Office on it either. So I'm thinking to myself, why aren't they being open, honest and transparent? Now, what is it that Keir Starmer said about his government being sort of transparent and working for us and all that sort of thing? Well, it doesn't seem to have come out that way. And another thing to bear in mind is that if this was a Tory-made scheme and it's just been carried out by Labour, they could cancel Rwanda, but they couldn't cancel this one. So there seems to be a bit of a change there.
Well, this seems to be a little bit more to do with, I think, the influence of America, let's face it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
The one thing that has been revealed in all this, though, is it looks like there is one white man that Keir Starmer will take a knee for, Joe Biden.
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah.
And
or the people, wonder, or the people who control him. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's quite funny actually, because one of the things I was just reading up on now is Keir Starmer holds talks with Biden, Schultz and Macron in Berlin. Hang on, Keir Starmer's holding talks with Biden.
Yeah.
Biden won't know who he is even. No. Biden doesn't hold talks with anybody. Biden says what he is told to say if he can say it. He's probably got, I mean, behind the scenes, he's probably got somebody else there with him, a representative saying, the president thinks this, unless they've actually got somebody with their hand up his...
Okay, get the picture.
Actually, Joe Biden's a glove puppet. And I mean, don't forget, years ago, Obama said that in the ideal world, he'd still be president, but have somebody out front running it for him so he didn't have to take all the flack. Yeah. You know, that's... maybe there was a little more truth to that than meets the eye.
Yeah. Well, I'm also looking, as I said, at this ECHR angle. I think, to be honest, that what they've done is they've flown them to a place where they can be decamped quite easily on Human Rights Act grounds into the UK direct from St. Helena once they get there. I think that's
Yeah.
what we're going to see. The lawyers will be they'll already be poring over their books this weekend to start their earning on Monday. And another
Oh, yeah.
side of it is, of course, that our decolonizer, David Lammy, he'd love to see people, islands like St. Helena, get fed up with the UK doing this sort of thing to them and start demanding that they get their independence and get rid of the awful UK colonization. So that could fall into. He'd be quite happy to help that along quite a long way, don't you think?
Well, I don't know, actually, because when you look at it, I mean, the people of St. Helena are not happy about this. The people of the Chagos Islands recently have not been happy about what's happened there either. And it does seem, do you know what it does seem? A little bit imperialist and colonialist, wouldn't you say? These are the sort of thing, so David Lammy, you imperialist, colonialist, far right, whatever.
Go and get your pith helmet on with all those ostrich feathers and start parading around.
And I wonder if a certain lord who is close to Sir Keir has had any involvement in this as well.
Well, there has been talk about that there is some connection there. I don't know what that connection could possibly be, but
it's all hearsay. It's all hearsay.
It's absolutely all hearsay. But the Chinese will, of course, be quite happy that the islands are being cleared and all the rest of it, because they can set up camps next to Diego Garcia with lots of radar and lots of scanning equipment and jammers and stuff, because they'll just ask Mauritius or pay Mauritius a lot of money to do it. And that's the real problem that I have with this whole thing.
I mean, as I've said before, though, I can see a lot of these asylum seekers, they've come to these camps now, and they're not going to be too happy with this. They're also not going to, and they'll be starting to make demands. But my main point here is that a lot of these people who are leaving certain countries and moving to other countries, some of these people are, as we know, economic migrants. Some are asylum seekers.
Yeah.
And these economic migrants, I think they're going to be running for, well, in the UK anyway, they're going to be running for the Channel. When they eventually find out that they have to engage, when Rachel Reeves forces them to engage in the legal economy. Because
the legal economy. Oh, don't get that one going.
Instead of the black economy, because a lot of, as we know,
it's the underground economy, Richard. The underground economy.
Okay, the underground economy.
Let's be woke about this.
Okay. I mean, the thing is, though, there is a way to stop all this.
Is that right?
And I've mentioned it to you before. It's digital currencies.
Oh,
now, I don't want digital
currency.
Yeah, but as soon as they get rid of cash and bring in the digital currencies, I think this is how digital currencies will be sold, not just to Britain but to the Western world. In order to stop mass immigration and the lure of the black market, because once that is removed, when cash is removed, those dreams are gone. Those dreams of making your filthy lucre on the black market in Britain, they're gone as soon as the digital currencies come into play.
Yeah, it's quite,
and that's
funny.
how it will be sold. It's quite, you know what? This is all coordinated. Can't people see that this is all coordinated? The abolition of cash, the mass immigration.
Anyway, John Kerr has said Starmer is a security threat to British people's safety. Yes, I would thoroughly agree with that.
Yes.
He's turning out to be a right, wolf in sheep's clothing, isn't he? Yeah. Anyway, talking about the underground economy, I read some time ago that it's actually factored into our GDP as a thing. If you took that away, our GDP would drop by some 8% or something. So they factor it in. It's just unbelievable, and it's growing. And the worst thing about it is everyone says, oh, there's this massive, all these drug dealers coming over here. The only reason the drug dealers come over here is because there's a lot of British people to service. That's the truth.
There's a huge demand for it. Yeah, I mean, we all know that certain substances, which are Class A's, are commonplace within, let's say, the media circles and the political circles and the entertainment industries. There's a lot of people with vested interest in this.
Yeah. How much did they find in Westminster when they did a sweep? and they do all the testing of the loos and
Oh
found out
yeah,
that there was
yeah,
coke all over the place.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Unbelievable.
yeah.
So yeah, it's a large problem I think we have actually. But there
Oh
you go.
yeah, yeah.
Oh look, good day, Pommies. Hello.
Yes, I've spent a little bit of time
Yeah.
down under myself.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I have never felt so unsafe in my own country. I live in Brum. Well, yeah, I can understand that. Yeah, things.
Get out if you can. I mean, that's the
Yeah,
only. I mean, people say, "Oh, we have to stand and fight." Yeah, I know that we are. We're trying to put some resistance up in. It all starts up here. The
yeah,
resistance starts up here. That's all I'll say.
yeah,
And it starts when we start regaining our Christian heritage and belief. I'm sorry, that's the only way you're going to do it. Secularism has delivered us over to this. Okay, anything goes. Every
yeah,
aspect of cultural relativism is perfect. Do not question cultural relativism. That has led us to where we are now. This is liberal left-wing thinking, which stems from post-Enlightenment secularism, and that's where
yeah,
we are. So, I mean, at the same time, but I do. It does feel when I say, leave if you can. It does feel very defeatist, doesn't it? These are people's
yeah,
homes where people have grown up, and I
yeah, yeah,
feel very. When you have to leave what's left of your community as you slowly watched your community erode, and now you have to say, well, there's nothing left. It's time to go, and that's a terrible state of affairs. How did this happen? It makes
yeah.
my blood boil. It really does.
Well, when you lose
Look,
one faith,
other people's
yeah,
communities matter, apparently. There are certain communities in this country which matter more than others, we'll say.
yeah, yeah,
Pathetic.
I'd agree. UN Project 2030. Well, there's a lot of UN projects out there, actually. If you go through the UN website and the EU website and every other website you can get hold of, they are absolutely packed to the gunnels, as the Navy would say, with all sorts of different schemes, plans, plots, timescales. And we're all factored into it, but no one really just sits us down and says, your life is over, your life of free choice is over, just, chain yourself to our wagon or you won't get anything. But
Well, it all looks very biblical to me. I'm sorry, I don't want to bash people over the head with this, but it certainly does. As a Christian, you're looking at eschatology and
yeah,
you're going, wow, this marries up, scarily so.
yes, it does actually.
Yeah, what's going on here? It's
Oh
quite
dear,
funny.
what is Galaxian saying? What do you mean by that? Good Lord, I can't put those two together, can you?
Yeah, I was watching Neil Oliver last night,
Yeah,
and I do enjoy Neil Oliver, a lot of what he's got to say. But
yeah,
I have noticed he's saying I'm finding it all sort of very confusing, and what's going on in the world. It's can't make sense of it to a certain extent, is what you're saying. Even though he does have a good grasp of what's going on, I think if you haven't got the Christian point of reference and the eschatological point of reference, you are going to be going, oh my goodness, what's this? Now this is happening. Now this is happening. Why is it all happening together?
yeah.
Yeah. And we've been warned
I'll
about it
let
for a long
people
time.
make their own minds up about that one. Yeah.
Yeah,
I didn't
absolutely.
know the British Parliament voted for an enabling act. Well, the trouble with some of these treaties is that they can be signed up to, laid before Parliament, and then if there's no opposition to them, they just happen. And if there is opposition to them, it can't last too long. So there's time limits on it. The government has the wherewithal to sign up to these international agreements. And this is a big problem for us because we then are told we have to obey international law that our government signed us up to without telling us they were going to do it. And then we have to change our internal laws, UK law, in Parliament to cater for that international law that was forced on us. That's how the system works. And they're
Yeah.
trying to do this more and more and more. Anyway.
Well, we know that Keir Starmer loves international law. He'll sign up to anything. If it's
Yeah.
international, I'm signing up here. Where do I sign? Same with Blair. They're cut from the same cloth, actually, and they're very similar in their, when you look into it, in their background and their ideology. A lot of people used to think that Blair wasn't left wing, that he was that he was more sort of centre right, and sort of followed Thatcher a lot more. I think when you look a little closer and you look at the bigger picture of what Blair was trying to put together, he was not trying to put together a socialist Britain. He was trying to put together the groundwork for a socialist Earth.
Well, yeah, he was making our part of the jigsaw fit everybody else's part of the jigsaw.
Yeah.
And that's how this all works. And gradually, they're knocking the sides off and turning us all into squares, and they all fit in this square hole, if you see what I mean. And that's how it works.
I mean,
if you have if you have any money, you need to hide it. Yeah, that's getting harder and harder, isn't it? The first thing, if the government truly thought that people were hiding money under their mattresses in real terms, they would hugely lift inflation so that it inflates the value of that money away. And they can do that quite easily. So that's what will happen. But also bear in mind that the only way to hide your money is either to take it out of the country in digital form or to convert it. But of all the money in the UK, I think it's between 2 and 3% of all the money in the UK is in the form of paper and coin. Only about 2 to 3%. The rest is in digital form on servers. Yeah, that's the truth.
I remember it being that amount going back a few years ago.
It's probably worse now then.
Yeah, this is when we were looking into things a good 15 years ago, we knew. I remember the Bank of England came out and actually stated such a fact. I think it was around the 3% mark. It might have been more slightly. I can't remember.
And if they take cash away and replace it with a central bank digital currency, it will all be digital, and you can't hide it anywhere because it will be moved on central servers, and all you can do is access what it says on that central server. You can't download it. That's how they want it to happen. That's why they don't like Bitcoin. They don't like Bitcoin because you can actually download it onto your device. They're not going to allow that.
Yeah. And there we have it. That's the answer which they have to the mass immigration problems. As soon as you enter into, you're not going to get a freebie with digital currency until universal basic income comes into play. That is, but you'll get that wherever you are. It won't matter if you're in the most, what's the word I'm looking for? Deprivated part of the world, or if you're living in I'm trying to think of a nice place in Britain. There isn't one left. Anyway, if you're living in Britain, South Wales, Wales, Mid Wales. If you're living in Mid Wales, you'll get the same. You'll get exactly the same.
Yeah, so everybody gets the same because that's what, in the end of the day, when AI does come along, I think we'll be looking seriously at universal basic income. I mean, even now, supermarkets are ditching jobs as they replace mostly. Some are not. Some supermarkets aren't, but many are now shifting towards these self-checkouts, and as they shed staff, as AI comes in, and when you've seen the robots, it won't be long before they're stacking the shelves for us, and they'll lay off even more staff. Then what do we do with these people that we're laying off? Well, we're just going to have to pay them money from somewhere, our universal basic income. And if everybody gets the same, then everyone's happy, aren't they? Yeah.
Personally, I can't stand these. So I have to say these supermarket checkouts. I tend to get a little bit irate at them, to say the least. What do you mean it didn't scan it? What do you mean item not placed in area? Anyway,
that's right. Yeah.
But this universal basic income it's a stepping stone. That's all this is. This is not the end game where everyone will have the same and it'll all be equal. This is, I've looked into this. Elon Musk has described as having, what was it? Oh, something along the lines of just abundance, okay?
Yeah,
abundance. Universal abundance.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Well,
that's because I think that's a whole different video.
But,
the thing about the worst thing about the self-checkout thing is that you go there and you've got your odd bottle of wine, haven't you? And it goes, you beep it through it, it goes, We will have, we'll have to check up on this. So check your age, basically. A loud announcement from the machine.
Ooh.
Dee, 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 dee. And it's like, it's got a red light above your head saying, alcoholic, alcoholic,
You should wear one of those down the street.
So that's why I don't like them. Apart from that, I don't mind them, but...
Yes, your casual alcoholism has been revealed to the public.
Absolutely. I'm Spartacus, says Frankie Love. Yeah, we're all going to be Spartacus at this rate, I could tell you.
Yes.
Oh, the king is counting his cash. Yeah. Well, he won't have any much going forward either. Some people don't realise. A lot of rich, wealthy and powerful people don't realise that as time goes on, and we turn to these technological wonders that are coming down the line, a lot of these rich, wealthy and powerful people will no longer be rich, powerful and wealthy because we won't need them. We won't actually need them. They won't have the money. And if they do bring in these horrific social credits, it doesn't matter how much money you've got. If you run out of social credits, you won't be allowed to spend the money on anything. So, there's a lot of things coming down the line that people don't think about.
Well, I would say that a lot of these rich people and powerful people do know that they will not have the wealth that they currently have, but there'll be something else in place.
Yeah.
Their aims are something, they still want to have some kind of power. And I think if you're on the ground floor with the development of these AIs, or if you're in the right clique, then these AIs will be very much behind you as opposed to other people. But then again, what's it going to matter if everyone's got peak abundance?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm trying to come to. It's
a very strange period in our history, this transitional period.
If at the end of the day, you just pick up the phone, or not pick up the phone, you think to yourself, oh, I'd love a bottle of Chablis and some whatever. And within 5 minutes, there's a rap on the door and there's a big box outside with all the stuff in it, and it's all there for you. And you just take it indoors. People will no longer think about how they are going to sustain themselves. This will all be about consumption. Anyway, that's, as I said, for another time.
Absolutely.
Vote for the koala party. I like that one. Vote for the panda party. Yes.
Every knee will bend. Sorry, Stuart Menzies Forant. Every knee will bend, and every tongue confess that Jesus is Lord, Jesus Christ is Lord. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what will happen in the end.
Sooner than you think, that one.
Yeah. Drugs are not allowed into the country unless the government profits directly off the crime gangs before the drugs flown into the country, normally on passenger planes. Yeah, I do have my suspicions that it's some people rely on this stuff to survive. And it's strange that we're not actually conducting the war on drugs as people understand it. There is no war on drugs. Douglas Murray, I think, goes on about this. Is it Douglas Murray who talks about this? The war on drugs? I can't remember now. And he said there isn't a war on drugs. And I agree with him. It's become tolerated, a tolerable thing across society. But no one has got the guts to say we need to decriminalize the whole lot and tax it. The problem there, of course, is that you can't completely decriminalize drugs, because there are people like surgeons and jet pilots and various other people that you wouldn't want taking drugs at all. So there will still be an illicit drug trade, even if we legalize it, because you've got to get them into Westminster somehow, haven't you? And how can all those drugs get past? If you've ever been to Westminster and you go past places like Number 10 or the Houses of Parliament, it's toppers with coppers, armed coppers, dogs, and what have you, scanners. And they can still get the stuff in there to the extent that it shows up in all the loos. No, come on.
I mean, the thing is, they could actually halt the drugs issue, sale of illegal drugs in this country almost instantly. The way they do it is, I think there was an experiment done in Widnes. I might be wrong. I think it's called the Widnes experiment. You can have a little Google of this, ladies and gentlemen. And in that experiment, you had a center where people were administered with as much of a Class A beginning with the letter H,
Yeah.
as they desired, for free. Okay, for free, as much not as well, not necessarily as much as they desired, but as much as was appropriate.
Yeah.
So what happened was that all of a sudden the dealers in that area found they had no clientele left. So, oh dear, they moved on. Drug-related crime absolutely collapsed.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what happened. It was that simple.
And you just end up with another proportion of the population hooked on drugs and economically inactive and a burden on society. Is that acceptable?
No, what happened was, the wonderful thing about this was that all first-time users disappeared. There were no new first-time users because
right. Okay, I can get that. So
because
there were no pushers.
Actually the point here is the people who were addicted to H, they were contained and they were gradually weaned off. They were in the system and being looked after.
Yeah,
and that's the difference. They couldn't get it. They couldn't go into the streets and buy it. They couldn't relapse within that area. It was impossible.
Yeah.
The dealers had
And
gone.
also,
there was no profit for them.
And also, the pushers couldn't push onto new people because there were no pushers. Yeah,
exactly. That's what I mean. There was no first-time users, so this worked perfectly. So there was no great. I mean, this, you might think this comes at a cost to the taxpayer. No, once you've removed drug-related crime, oh my goodness, there's a lot of money sloshing around there. I can tell you, all the policing that's involved with because of the drugs trade and everything that goes along with it. Oh, it saves a fortune, but they won't do that.
Yeah. So all the pushers now go up to the job centre, don't they? And they apply for jobs. What job would you like? Oh, I'd like to be a doctor. Are you qualified? What was your last job? Oh, I was a drug pusher.
Yeah.
Oh, and you're highly likely to be a doctor, aren't you? Now, I wonder what will happen to all those people who were pushing it. What crime will they get involved in? They're not likely just to go and run a newsagent or become a milk deliverer, are they?
No.
Anyway, I've got to say we've been going for quite a while, and it's time for me to go shopping. So
yes, I was noticing the time.
Yeah.
Well,
so it's really nice to talk to everybody, and I hope we've cheered up your Saturday morning before you go out there and get your week's shopping in or whatever it is you do. So I'll say it's goodbye from me.
And it's goodbye from him. Goodbye.
Thank you.